Hey guys, it's Matt. About a minute or less before I start reading chapter 14, if there wasn't so much to talk about and so many videos to be made about reality just melting down all around us, I would do a comment show once a week, just looking at comments. The last video about the Tour de France, I told that story about my horrific 2 days and the food in Gay Paris, and there was a comment that said, you just told a story. There's not going to be any discussion? That's why in the video I said to close out, I'm about to tell a story. And I actually said how long it would take. About 15 minutes. That's why I said I'm just going to tell a story. Oh boy. Also, this book is still unnamed and there is no final or complete PDF. I finish it chapter by chapter. When I read it, it's pretty much done. But the chapter coming up, like 15, isn't quite done until I prepare it over the next day or two. So when this is all the readings are done, I will be giving the PDF out to anybody that wants it and then telling you the best place you can go if you want to print it out. I'm not going to get involved in that. Like Lulu or something, you could take the PDF and print it out and make a book out of it if you'd like. Chapter 14. Most people don't question where the term gut feeling came from. It's a knowledge or truth that comes from another place. It's an instinct that overrides the logical mind. So where does this knowledge come from if you're not a spiritual being? It proves that you are. Quote, modern man thinks knowledge and reasoning can only come from the brain. The highest truths come from somewhere else, and the heart plays an integral part in one's holistic intelligence and wisdom. This is likely the reason a real person cannot live with an artificial heart made out of plastic pumps and metal. Only a heart transplant from another real body will work. To understand the truth of this world, inner knowing, or gut feeling, doesn't look to the logical mind that thinks in English or other Romance languages. They're only romantic to the one-world system's spell. Logic from the frontal lobes of the brain or the thinking mind, if it's trying to discern the truth of this world, is like pouring an 80-pound bag of cement into your own toilet. Logic from the thinking part of the brain can never open your eyes to spiritual truth. This is why the world suppresses knowledge that can only come from the gut, and society has a massive infrastructure in place to reward accomplishments that come from the brain, the logical mind, and of course, that come from the body. Here's just a short list of thousands of examples. The award of the Nobel Prize, somebody getting a PhD, the NBA MVP, the key to the city, Woman of the Year, man or woman, Rhodes Scholars, Fields Medals, Mr. or Mrs. Olympia, Mr. or Mrs. Universe, OBE, Order of the British Empire. That's a knighthood, so people can call their pompous asses Sir Dick. Most people place all their emphasis on intelligence, proud of their many degrees hanging on the wall. This creates an ego that will learn how to suffocate gut feeling, which is the wisdom of the spirit. In Star Trek, Captain Kirk always outranked Spock because as decisions get more important, the logical mind plays second fiddle to instinct and gut feeling. Maverick in Top Gun said, if you think up there, you're dead. What'd she say back? Well, that's a pretty big gamble with a $33 million, was a $30 million plane, I think. Maverick flew on gut instinct, an unintentional truth drop in the movie. Ben Affleck in the movie Armageddon was scolded by Bruce Willis that these people at NASA have no patience for you going with your gut and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the movie Armageddon, it was Ben Affleck's, in the character's gut feeling that saved the world, with his original allusion coming in the opening scene of the movie, where oil is struck on the rig because Ben says to Bruce Willis, yeah, I had a hunch on that. Ah, hunch. Where does that information come from? Remember what Jerry Maguire said, what does your heart tell you? Why did he put it like that? Why didn't he just say, what does your brain tell you to do, Rod? Knowledge from the heart is another way of saying the highest knowledge and truth comes from a place inside you that's far away from the logical mind. I'm sure you've heard this said, I can feel it deep down in my bones. You've heard people say things like this, every cell in my body cried out not to get in that car. There are many other ways to say the same thing. The powerful spiritual tuning fork you have access to has nothing to do with the logical brain or the part of your mind reading these words in English. We got no other choice. We got to speak in English. Some cities speak different than others. The man on the street uses these phrases, but doesn't stop to think for a second where these phrases came from. Knowledge pulled from another place. In a way, all of these phrases are stuffed Lenins. The thinking frontal lobes of the brain associated with ego is without a doubt the dumbest part of us. It's also the part controlled by society and the easiest for the not-nilk to fool. The ego is brainwashed to bow down to societal norms and to believe in authority, government, and experts. Unfortunately for most people, the modern ego is Master Blaster from the movie Beyond Thunderdome. It tries to take over the whole of you by suppressing the parts of you that foster inner knowing. In modern man, ego run Bartertown. He said it, what did he say to Tina Turner? Who run Bartertown? That little Master Blaster son of a bitch. In the case of the man on the street, ego run Bartertown. There's other parts suppressed. In most people, the ego is the dictator firmly in control, and the way they live their entire lives comes solely from the brain. Your job is to take back the beach, but in doing so, don't consider ego an enemy that needs to be destroyed. We need the ego on earth for as long as we're here. We'd be eaten alive by this difficult place without it. The ego has a role to play, no doubt about it, but it needs to be demoted down to private. It needs to be told by Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump to shut up, get down. The world is set up to promote ego in every facet of society so that it learns to take over the whole of you. It will quickly make admiral, and then after that, be promoting itself to emperor. Demote that son of a beach before it's too late. Use your logical mind to read this or to listen to what I'm saying. Think on these topics in your head, as you must do for a bit. But to discern the highest truth, get the brain and the ego mind out of the way as soon as possible. Let your powerful inner knowing come forth. Dig the wet cement out of your toilet before it hardens up all the way. Look at your family and friends in this regard. Use the logical mind as the basic interpreter of each paragraph or anything you read in the news or anything you see, but always make the link to gut and inner knowing to compare what you're hearing to the real truth meter inside you. Once your inner knowing has discerned what is real, the ego mind then can be let back in to ponder it further and then to remember. The ego mind can't find the truth of this world on its own. In that regard, it's a one-legged hurdler. In most people, the ego mind is not even trying to look for higher truths. Inside almost everybody, ego is actually trying to hide the truth as an agent for the not-nilk system. This society has crafted the logical mind and the ego to be in the driver's seat at all times. It's become a Napoleon on steroids. It has hidden the channels to inner knowing so well in most people, they don't even know they should be looking for these tunnels, long buried. When people today get a bit of intuition that tries to come forth like an itch, they don't even scratch it. They don't even notice it. Just suppress the intuition, favoring the logical mind that bows down to the authority of this world. In 2020, they watch the news, they think, oh, stay safe. In a way, the ego mind is like Castaneda's mind virus in 2023. Of course, there are tens of billions of examples of people succumbing to the Napoleon ego, bowing down to authority and experts. I've spoken to you a few times over the years about my father's friend that I used to have lunch with. In 2020, when it all started and the Dr. F tyranny began, Fred came over to my house and we sat outside for lunch. He said to me he was not afraid. I had been speaking to him for years about how this world really works, and he was always interested in what I had to say, if not fully convinced. As a normie and an older man, I expected him early on to be very concerned, of course, about C the V, and I was impressed that he would come over at all. Okay, he's over 80, okay? Then one day, he changed. He became very fearful. He admitted to me he was watching a lot of news, and of course, his ego mind was analyzing the situation and listening to these experts. He would no longer come over to sit outside for lunch. It became clear the problem was he would not step 1 foot inside my house, not even to walk 5 steps to get onto my deck where the picnic table is. Now, let's say he fully believes in this virus. He knows the situation in my house. He knows I don't go nowhere. I don't do nothing. It's not like I have having raves here and there were hundreds of people in the house partying the night before. There's nobody. If you can be as scared as you want of the virus. I don't go anywhere. This might be the safest place in the world. So he still wouldn't step 1 foot in the house. Like, oh no, we've lost another one to not nilk. Thinking back to this time, though, I honestly don't remember if this was a factor, if it was about me not renting the Carl Weathers movie Action Jacksonation or not. That might have been a factor. You know how that was like the final destroyer of relationships. The precise circumstances, though, don't matter. He was operating under the control of a mind that had literally been brainwashed by the Ministry of Information. This was another casualty in a billion relationships that were destroyed since 2020. The Not Ilk is a brutal adversary. So tirelessly work to reintroduce your ego brain to your inner knowing channels. And be clear to all parties concerned that the inner knowing is the general in charge. Allow the channels to get bigger over time and show them that they can work together. You know what spirit is. You can use the term soul if you like. What's the exact difference between soul and spirit? Well, many smart people have written books or spoken on the topic. The consensus is the greater term or rank is spirit. Soul may be more local to this earth system. Something like a soul may be needed as the spark to animate the body in all animals, even fish and insects. Fleshy parts thrown together don't work on their own. Soul may be something all living things need to start the engine up and to run the car. It's okay if you share this same aspect with a groundhog or a rabbit. To me, the connection real people have to out of here is called spirit. Think of Earth like a glass snow globe, and part of you is outside this place looking in. Soul and certain parts of the mind and heart may be where spirit and the material plane intersect. I don't think the perfect terminology is important, just the basic understanding of the component parts. Once again, it's great news for real people who likely have all of the important parts. We can't be sure if other animals or even people we know have all the component parts that you have or that I have. This could be the case if the concept of the NPC is real. Does Melvin P. have all these parts? Melvin P. of the Belinda and Melvin P. Gates Foundation. Does he have all the same parts? Well, maybe, but they might not be the same as you. Uh-oh, Melvin, uh-oh. Soul seems to be in the middle of a spiritual tug of war. On one side of the rope is your own spirit, which has a variety of meanings depending on your specific beliefs. A connection to God for some of you, for example. All spirit means to me is there's a part of me that's not here. That part is timeless. Something that likely always has been and always will be. It can't die. On the other side of the rope pulling are the things of this world, with your own ego and body pulling at the front of that side of the rope. Yes, pulling in a struggle against your own spirit. That is the case with most people, in my opinion. Part of doing the work is to end this tug of war. Your team should pull together. Also on that same side of the rope pulling are all the things rooted and derived from this material plane of existence. It's a million earthly things pulling on that side of the rope versus just your spirit on the other side. Soul is in the middle. Soul is the Vitruvian man with the arms extended, in my opinion, in this example. It's soul against everything else. It doesn't seem fair, does it? Millions of things pulling against just one thing. No, it's not fair at all. Your spiritual side of the metaphysical rope is far stronger. Once that side is activated, it easily wins. This world keeps it deactivated. An Incredible Hulk in a Hillary Clinton pantsuit could join the side of the rope representing this material plane, and it quickly would be pulled over by your spirit. This is why reality works so hard to cut the ropes, or to have the Vitruvian man gnaw off his own arm. To me, the Vitruvian man with his arms spread out looks like he's being pulled from both sides, spirit versus the material plane. Is the Vitruvian man the soul in the middle of this war? To me it is. I doubt that's what Leonardo DiCaprio intended, but I don't care what that Renaissance masturbator would describe as the real meaning of the Vitruvian man. I can take the highest meaning away from it, whether Leo intended it or not. Maybe it's wrong to place these things in the context of a tug of war, implying there will be a winner and a loser. But I must start with that analogy to make a point. Our job here seems to be to create a balance, so all aspects work in harmony. This world creates disharmony. This world creates distraction. This world creates dis-ease. all the parties of you must throw down the rope and then hug like hippies. Brothers don't shake hands. Brothers got to hug. Spirit and soul and all aspects of us got to hug. But one side's brainwashed by the Not Elk. We'll snap out of it and hug. How many times have we heard the stuffed Lenin of mind, body, soul? Interesting, another trinity. Unfortunately, with your friends and family, there's no unity among aspects. We have a ton of work to do in this regard. In many people of the modern age, 2 of the 3 parts dominate or even try to destroy the other part. How sick is that? All this world does over and over is push body, ego, mind, or body and glamour, or Maybelline New York and L'Oreal Paris, and ego, mind, brain, university degrees. That's all it is, those 2. Well, Don Lemon, what about the third part? There's the spiritual side. You fool, that side doesn't even exist. This world says it's just body, ego, mind. I don't even work out much anymore. And that obnoxious guy who's ripped, with his muscles, he keeps showing me ads. It's like, go away and bother somebody else. I'm not going to take your program. I barely pick up a few dumbbells during the week. Why does it keep showing me this? And he shoves a donut in his mouth. He's like, most people think you can't eat carbs. Go away and bother someone else. Where's the ad saying get in touch with your spiritual self? Those ads don't exist online. A battle between the agents of the material plane and your spiritual self needs a battleground, and that battleground seems to be soul here on earth. So in this example, the body of the Vitruvian man being pulled on both sides is soul. It's possible that those who metaphorically have given their soul to the devil may mean they have lost their connection to the part of them that is not here. Maybe they've voluntarily offered to cut the rope in the tug of war, so one side can't pull any longer. If you prefer, think of the Vitruvian man with one arm ripped off by a rope tied to an elephant with the face of Henry Kissinger. In these cases, has the higher self actually lost its big toe to this world? Perhaps. Others, who I call the no consequences people, believe one cannot harm themselves spiritually in this place in any way. They believe that if that was possible, we would have never agreed to come here. They would say someone like Bono does what he does because that is the role he plays here. Some no consequences people may say that a creep like Bono is fundamentally different from you, but he hasn't harmed himself spiritually as he plays his role in this particular incarnation. He's just a lower level creep with maybe more work to do than you. We don't know, but it's possible. The chocolate factory needed Oompa Loompas, right, to keep the plant going. Could the needed Oompa Loompas of this place be people like Bono, Shaq, and Melvin? Perhaps. Whether real people can be harmed spiritually based on personal choices is up for debate. It matters not to know the details on this topic to complete your spiritual journey. It's worry about yourself. You and I will do the right thing either way. We don't do what we do to seek applause or for a reward. The no consequences people are not stealing purses from little old ladies on their rollerblades because they don't believe the choices here have spiritual consequences. We're all choosing to do the right thing. We're all choosing to walk the path that we're led to walk down. Not that we're going to choose some sick, perverted path because we don't believe there's spiritual consequences. I'm in the middle on this personally. I try to, represent the no consequences people as fairly as I can. They have brought me more to that side. I believe there possibly could be consequences. I look at creeps like Alec Baldwin, for example. Some of these people, maybe not the incarnation that Tony says, the sequential incarnation, a different spiritual entity. Some, of course, in Hollywood or doing weird things or whatever, they are drawn under the dragon's wing, but potentially are as real or were as real boy or girl Pinocchio as you were. As you are, I meant to say. Were, past tense, may apply to Alec. So if real boy Pinocchio, let's just say Alec Baldwin, as hard as to imagine as this is, he was as real as you, if you can believe that. He's drawn under this dragon's wing, deeper and deeper down. Then there's no consequence for that? To me, there seems to be. We'll never know. The beauty of it is it doesn't matter. We're going to do what we need to do no matter what. We don't do what we do because or to avoid a consequence. Tony, who I've talked to, has even alluded to that if Alec Baldwin does have a higher self like you do, as hard to imagine as that is, it could be the higher self can learn, as Tony has alluded to, can learn from assholes as well as good people like you and me. Now, I don't want to believe that. I don't. Part of me wants to believe, and of course this is natural, I'm sure you too, we want to believe there's a dire consequence for making a choice like Melvin P. has chosen, or Christian would say they're doomed to hell. We've talked about this recently. If you truly understood the high being that you are, okay, we sense it, this is the path we're walking, but I mean, you just knew every bit of it. You wouldn't hate someone like Melvin. It wouldn't be. That's what this. You can see the games this world plays, the breadcrumbs it lays, the BitChute, the Odyssey, the Brighteon, and you can't say Illumin. You get a banner ad. So now somebody suggested we say aluminum Ducati. A Ducati's a motorcycle, an aluminum Ducati. What does the internet get the truth community to do? To absolutely hate the aluminum Ducati. Well, yeah, I see they're not doing the greatest things. I can look up in the sky and see the tails of chemicals, and I can see what happened in 2020, and I can see the big day in 2001. Yeah, I understand that. But again, if you truly are the powerful being, hate would never enter into the equation during this Earth experience. It is very petty and low. It lowers us to its level or their level. This is a place, this Earth environment needs these sorts of role players. I'm not thrilled with what's going on, obviously, but you cannot, as a powerful being, would never hate. Okay, that is crystal clear to anybody that doesn't spend too much time on BitChute. Okay, it's backing up far enough to see what is the nature of this entire experience that's playing out here. What is the purpose for these role players that are lower than you? Do you go out and just march around your backyard and hate the ants? No matter what the ants are doing, you're never going to hate them. It's so much lower than you. That is the way we should look at Melvin P. Yes, they're the big fish in the small pond. You and me, we're not going to control things hard. You know what? Our purpose is not to control things here. This whole plane of existence is set up so these assholes control everything here. So guess what? So we learn something. Thanks for listening.